Hi, I'm Kim,
And I'm Torra.
and this is our podcast, Parenting Young Adults with Kimm and Torra. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, today we have a number of topics that we're going to talk about, and I think they stem from the conversations that we were having last episode. And so,
Mm-hmm.
the first
Mm-hmm.
one is to talk about what I call astral traveling, which is going to other dimensions during
Mm-hmm.
sleep. And Tori, you indicated that this actually happens to you and your
Oh yeah.
children.
Oh yeah. We used to call it my grandparents used to just say it was your soul leaving your body. And
Mm.
then of course as you get older, the scientific word is called sleep paralysis. And so I never heard of sleep paralysis when I was a kid. It was only till I got older and I started asking other people, did they do it? And then I think maybe like two or three other people was like, oh yeah, I definitely do it. And I was like, well, how do you get out of it? Because that was always my thing. I could never like get back to my. I felt like the way I'm describing it to you is the way I felt like I could never get back into my body. And they would say just go back to sleep, and I'd be like I was always scared to just go back to sleep, and it actually worked. So yeah, I have definitely, I was able to, when I was younger, I was more so I would stay in the room. I could still see everything, do everything, but I would stay in the room. But now I'm starting to do other things. Like I'm starting to leave out of the room. I go downstairs, and my daughters, now that I've told them that nothing's gonna happen, they have, one of my daughters has like, okay, yeah, the other day it happened. She was in the house, all her roommates were gone, and she said she could just clearly hear that, like it sounded like somebody was in the house, but she couldn't see who it was, and she couldn't get up, she couldn't move, she couldn't talk. And she was just like, I had the worst sleep paralysis. And I said, well, why didn't you just go see what it was? And she's like, I wanted to, but I was afraid to go out the room. She said, but I could see me standing in the room looking at like, what was the sound? And I said, was nobody home? She's like, no. I said, well, it could have been the neighbors, because your height, you can hear so many miles away. Like clearly you can hear. And it's scary sometimes. It's very scary. And usually it's not even a thing like you can take medication and you'll fall into a deeper sleep and you'll go there or it happens. It's just one of those things where mine has never happened with anyone in the house. Mine has always happened when I'm home, and or yeah, when I'm home alone. It's never, and I think that's because my mind is always probably knowing someone's in the house. Usually when I'm home alone, I can, if I take a nap, I'm sleeping, I'm at peace because I know no one can disturb me. I know I'm at, in a deeper sleep. My mind shuts off, put it that way. Because I definitely suffer from that where I can go to sleep and my mind still races. Still, I can do a whole day's work in my mind as if I'm still awake. And when I wake up, of course, I'm just as exhausted as I was when I went to bed because my mind doesn't shut off. But both of my daughters have had it. My son said he had it once, but it hasn't happened in a while. No. He's had it a couple of times, but he just said it hasn't happened in a while. But all of us suffer. Me, my two daughters, and my son definitely have it. And but me and my daughters, we suffer from it. And they're always like, Mom, it happened again. I could hear you. I could hear you on the phone. I could see you, but I couldn't even do anything. And then there's times you feel something, like you feel it. And I had a best friend that also she can do it too, but
So
we haven't talked
it's
about it.
involuntary. It's not something that you purposely do. It just happens to you and your
Well,
children.
there's some people I was reading, there's some people that can purposely do it now. Like they can control it and do it and actually put themselves in a deep enough sleep that they can astro whatever you want to call it,
Yeah, because what you're talking about is different from astral traveling. Astral traveling is when people purposely do it and they go out of their home, like say to the
Yeah.
pyramids in Egypt
Hmm.
or to
Hmm.
Grand Canyon, or they'll pick some
Hmm.
faraway
Yeah, see,
place.
I'm not ready to go that far yet. I mean, I
Okay.
always think I can, but like I said, the furthest I've ever done is like come like downstairs in my house, and then I hurry up and run back upstairs. And I've actually have this like little community on on social media that I didn't join them, but we've been talking, and it feels safe because certain things they say nobody else would know unless you did it.
So
And
you
if
know
you,
this
even if you
one.
read about it, you wouldn't know the feeling of the weight, how your body just starts to feel. You can feel both worlds. You can feel the world of your laying in your bed, and you can also feel the spiritual side. And you feel like your body's starting to get so heavy, and you just like, look, I gotta get back. I gotta get back. So it's like certain things they'll say, and you just like, no, yeah, they've experienced it. Or they know someone who's told them the whole story and they're repeating it verbatim, because it's no way these people can know what you know about stuff. But yeah, they've said they've gone places, and that's how they find out, if their spouse was cheating, or people were talking about them, or friends were talking about them. I haven't gone that far, and I don't think I ever want to. I don't think I want to know what people say about me. I don't
But
want to
you're not
do
supposed to be around. Yeah, some stuff I don't want to know, but
that.
that is not something that I've ever experienced. I have momentarily experienced sleep paralysis, which
Mhm.
is for me, it's been years now, but it's where you're trying to wake up and your eyes just won't open. You're just in, it's like you're awake, but you're not awake. And
So
then
you've
it's
never said to yourself in your
a few
sleep and
seconds.
done things and make yourself feel like you're awake, but you're like, you're awake, you're doing stuff like you're awake, and then you realize you're not awake when something happens inside of the dream. You
Never,
didn't get to that
never,
part?
never. Now, I certainly have had dreams and then something happens outside. I think we mentioned this before, like if the phone starts ringing, then you know how weird dreams are. Then the phone is ringing in the dreams and you go down another pathway
Mhm.
of dreaming. But I've never been literally asleep and been able to look at myself or know that I'm asleep and I'm outside of my body. I've never experienced
Really?
that. Mm-mm. Never. Never. Just the thing that I told you about, which is not really that fun because
Yeah.
you want to wake up, but you just can't literally open your eyes. That's a very short thing. And then, you come out of
How
it.
did you get out of that? You just went back to sleep, or you just tried to twitch your body, try to like twitch
No,
that
it
body?
just goes away and then you wake up.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it doesn't happen enough. It hasn't happened enough for me to have a process because it's been so few times that it'll just go away and I'll wake up and that's it. But it's really uncomfortable. But
It's
I
very uncomfortable.
I was supposed to watch that movie Behind Her Eyes, which is actually not even a movie, it's a
It's
series.
a series.
And there's no
It
way.
brought my kids so much. I mean, it's
There's no way.
it brought my daughters so much comfort. They completed it this weekend, and well, my oldest daughter did, and she called me. She's like, "Mom, I finally finished," and it's only, I think, what, 4 movies or 5, something like that, episodes. And she said, she's like, it's so funny how you can do that in the movie, but I would never. She's like, didn't the part scare you when they switch bodies? And I'm like, yeah, that part made me really think
So
like,
you guys know you could do that? You feel
I would never play with that. Now that's
you
something that
feel you could do it if you wanted to?
um I don't know. That's the part I was wondering. Is that the part where they make it a movie? Because
Okay, where they
you bring
fix your
some
life.
truth to the movie, but then you make it interesting by saying, "But what if?"
Hmm.
Because we both agreed that would not be good. So yeah,
Right,
we
because what
deleted
if you
that
can't
part.
get back out? I
No,
mean,
and right, and in the movie, if you ever watch it, it's not going to spoil it, because my friend ended up telling me about the end of the movie, and I still watched it and still was shocked. So
I
it's not
could
going to
never
spoil it.
watch that. That's the kind of thing that I would never watch. To me, it was scary. I looked it up. I
Mhm.
realized that it
It's
was
not scary. It's
it to
definitely
me.
not scary.
See, the
Oh,
thing
okay.
that's the big difference to me
Mhm,
that is scary. And I
mhm,
looked at the trailer and I was like, no way, no way. I do not watch movies like that. I
mhm,
never do. And like I think I mentioned to you or someone else, even
mhm.
that movie Get Out.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites.
That
I
was
love that
scary to
movie.
me, and people got me to go see it by saying, "It's not scary, Kim. It's not
It's
scary."
mind altering. It's more
It's
mind.
a horror movie. To me, it is like a modern day version of Frankenstein, where you're getting Frankenstein got a lobotomy or some kind of brain
Mhm,
thing. It was that. I didn't like, I mean, I saw it because I was at
mhm,
the theater, but I never, stuff like that is just scary to me, and I don't watch it. So
I
I
think
was like,
it's a
I'm
comfort for people
definitely.
who think like that anyway. You know, you think like person has got to be hypnotized. There's just no way. You know, some people would put it as roots, you know, oh, she had roots put, or he had roots put on him, or he had voodoo, you know, put on, you know, something negative, even though I don't believe voodoo is negative, but they made
Can
it.
be. I think it can be.
Um, I think it was
Depends on how you use it.
always a healing, and then when it came to the United States of America, they switched it and made the word something negative. But for
Oh,
everything
I think
I've investigated about voodoo, it started out as a healer. People who were told they were going to die from some disease would go to these what they call them witch doctors, another word, you know, but they were called healers.
I'm thinking they didn't used to call them that. I think
They
that's
didn't. These were
Western
all
mental wordplay.
yeah, these were all the Western world you know, slogans that they put on a negative to give it a negative. And like I said, they were all known to heal you. You know, you were told that you were terminally ill, you would stay in these encampments, and they would tell you you're healed, and they would give you all these prognoses and tell you, and your mind would heal its your entire body just by
But
being
voodoo is
told,
also an entire religion
yeah,
that is a part of
yeah.
African
Mhm,
spirituality. So the healing is a component of that. And
mhm.
I think what they used to call them more like the Native Americans did, medicine man, medicine
Medicine
woman,
man,
something like
yes,
that.
medicine doctor,
But,
yep.
voodoo is a whole spiritual thing because I'm actually trying to not really
And they
necessarily
said it
study
wasn't
that.
even voodoo, it was hoodoo. That was the original name of it. It was called hoodoo. And of course, like I said, when it came to the Americas, it changed to something negative. So the original meaning of it was supposed to be a healer, like you said.
Hmm.
So
But I just
yeah,
watch
that's
those
it.
kinds of things. I just think that when I watch movies and TV, I like to be really entertained. I like it to be lighthearted. But I
Mhm,
know a many of people who love a good horror movie, who love a good thriller and a
mhm.
suspense. It's just not me. And
And you
it's
thought
just
Get
like,
Out was horror, right?
oh yeah, I was like, oh no, I would never, I would never. But my children would. I know my daughter loves that kind of stuff. I
And
don't know
you
if she
watched it.
loves that kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
she likes horror movies. She
Okay.
certainly will go to the movies and see a horror movie in a heartbeat. I
Well, you
personally
should ask her and then maybe ask her opinion on Behind Her Eyes and then get it her
ask
perspective.
them. They're coming up to their finals. I want to say.
Yeah, they are.
So
Yeah.
maybe once she gets home, then she might
Mhm.
want to take a look at it and see.
Yep.
I personally, I'm gonna have to pass. I'm gonna have to take your word on that one because I
I
was
think
like,
you would realize it's not a horror film at the least.
but did you think Get
Everything
Out
but.
was a horror film?
Hmm.
Did you
Yeah.
think?
Now, no, 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 no. Now that was breathtaking. Yes, I do think Get Out could be viewed as definitely a horror film, a one and done. I think people who don't like horror movies would watch that and be like, I watched that was my one and done. But no, with Behind Her Eyes, it's one of
It's
those
so
ones you.
creepy though. It seems so creepy from the trailer and and uh and what were they saying? And the one woman met the man and there's something going on. It was just too creepy with him and his wife. And
Mhm.
it was a lot.
It's a thriller, but it's definitely not a horror film. That is definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to take your word for it. So with the with the sleep paralysis or the soul leaving your body, is
Uh-huh.
that something that, as far as you're aware, various members of your extended family do as well, or you haven't talked to them about
No, I remember my grandmother telling me that it was that because I remember confiding in her when I was younger. It's like, Mom, when I go to sleep, like I can see everything around me, but I'm not in my body. She's like, Oh yeah, girl, you just with the angels. It's just your soul left your body. You'll go back. And she just blew it off, and she knew. So of course I'm young. You know, I'm 10, 11. I don't know any better. I
it?
just
That
know that
was
okay,
good.
whatever she said.
That's
Yeah.
good because it helped you not to be afraid or
No,
scared because she just said it like, oh well, yeah, that's what
absolutely. And my
happens.
grandmother was a healer. She was definitely a healer. People used to feel like if they had something put on them, they would go to her, and she was like the modern day herbalist
Oh,
guru. Yeah.
and you didn't pick up any of that from her, like what would she use for this or that or the other?
Rabbi, people come to me all the
You
time.
didn't? Oh, I didn't know
It's
that.
to the point they be like, go ask Torah, she got it. Go
Oh,
ask
well,
Torah,
I
she
will be
fixed it.
asking you. I didn't know that. I never knew
Yeah,
that.
but I try not to make that like my only focal point. Say if someone came to me and said they was very sick and that they felt like they were going, I absorbed that from them. And so I feel like
You're an
they don't,
empath.
yeah. So it's like I try not to do too much with that. If you're just saying, oh, I'm sick, I don't feel well, what should I take? What should I do? I am definitely like, oh, I got something for that. Oh, hold on, I got something for that.
Okay.
Oh,
But you don't want them to come to you with very serious
right,
issues.
right. I
Oh,
mean, I probably would still. I mean, my husband, he had a whole bunch of ailments. He had so many aches and pains in his body, and his doctor had said that he had high blood pressure. Oh no, high cholesterol. I'm sorry. And immediately I jumped into, holistics. I was like, please do not take that medicine because I do not want you to get in early stages of Alzheimer's. The medicine that they have on the, block, trust me, I know the pharmaceutical company means well, but I promise you, everyone I know who takes that medicine gets early stages of dementia and then Alzheimer's. Please don't take it. And he was like, well, I'm just going to take it to lower it. I'm like, please don't take it.
so
Like,
this is the statin medication that they give them for cholesterol?
they gave him, I mean, well, he prescribed him, I forget the name of the medicine. I can't remember. I'll get back. That's something I'll get back. But
And you know that to cause early stages of dementia?
um not only do I know it, I watched it happen in people. I've watched men drive their wives to and from doctors, and they go to and from the stores, and all of a sudden they go to the doctors for not feeling well from whatever. It could be cholesterol, could be high blood pressure, and then the doctors put them on all this medication, and months later they're dead. It's like, what? And it's like, so you might as well just, had not even gone to the doctors, because the medicine they gave you, to me, seemed like it sped up a process that could have been delayed, maybe
Even maybe reversed. How
or
about that?
reversed.
Mhm.
Yeah. So when my husband came to me and told me that he had high cholesterol and everything, I found this uh guy who believes only in herbs and stuff and vitamins, and he ended up taking those, and pretty much, he learned that having high cholesterol wasn't all that bad. It actually protects your brain and the myelin in your brain from short circuiting the wires, because it's basically like, if you have a wire, that's plugged up, it's,
Well, I know about the
bring it
myelin sheath. I know about the myelin
right.
sheath, but
So
you're
if you
saying
strip
high cholesterol protects the myelin sheath?
your cholesterol does. Your
Oh,
brain,
okay.
yes, your brain, once the cholesterol and the fatty tissues and stuff that protects that wiring starts stripping away, and those wires start short circuiting in your brain. And I'm using terminology that I can understand. Sorry if no one's able to understand it, but it's almost like it's if you have a wire and you strip all the coating off of it, and the two wires are touching each other now.
It's
Eventually,
sparking and causing
they start
problems.
sparking and short circuiting and start wearing out. And basically, that cholesterol that's in your brain and the fatty tissues that are in your brain start deteriorating, because the cholesterol medication is eating everything up. It's not actually, just eating up the good cholesterol.
Medication is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's not eating up just the bad cholesterol, it's eating up the good cholesterol. And then eventually you have all these other health problems. That's how I viewed it. So for that, I was asking him not to take that medicine, give me some time. I was like, give me some time to figure this out. So eventually, yeah, he did. And all his aches and pains went away. He was supposed to have surgery on his back, surgery on his elbow, surgery on his hand, take cholesterol, and everything pretty much
So the high
just went away.
cholesterol was causing him to have bodily pains?
We don't know if the cholesterol was causing him to have bodily pains or just wear and tear of years, and the cartilage in his body wasn't building up. So we had him on a lot of vitamins that build cartilage, which is when osteo is more so for your bones, your joints, building cartilage, building bone. And then a multivitamin, which helps gives you your vitamin A, B, C, iron, your, calcium, it helps with everything.
Never heard
So
any of these, and it's.
and I believe it. I even
I mean, it
approach,
works. If you see
yeah,
something work, you tend to believe in it.
absolutely. The way
Yeah.
it worked for me, it worked for me in 100 ways, and selenium. Also, he promotes selenium, which is a cancer fighting vitamin. I'll say agent. I won't call it a vitamin. That the body cannot pretty much produce cancer with selenium in it and alkaline water. all of those things. We
I
did
drink
it.
alkaline water I have an
Absolutely.
alkaline water machine, so
We have an alkaline water machine also. So but we've had ours um, for a while now, and we do keep
I
up to
have mine
date.
about 7+ years now that I've
Yeah,
been doing that.
we
Yeah.
used to buy it from a guy who sold it, and then we were spending so much buying the water. We were like, we need to just buy our own machine. So
Mm.
yeah, we only drink alkaline
They're
water.
not cheap, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
worth
worth it. It pays for itself.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, you're right because back then I used to buy bottled water and I actually used to buy baby water because it
Mhm.
didn't have fluoride in it.
Right,
Because I didn't,
right.
so we used to have jugs and jugs of water, and the
Mhm,
machine cost thousands of dollars. But at
mhm.
the end of the day, over 7 years, I know that I have saved a ton of money
Oh
from
yeah,
not
and
buying
you
all
know the
those bottles of
difference. I mean,
water.
you taste other water, and you can pick up on every element in there. You feel like you tasting drinking bleach sometimes.
Sometimes
Clorox is so
you do.
strong.
Well, that's
So
interesting. I would love to hear about that. I'm really, of course, as you know, into everything holistic. I'm
mhm,
always telling my kids, don't take medicine if at all possible,
mhm,
because there are too many side effects.
right.
And when you can find something natural, there's something natural on this earth for whatever you're trying to do. And like at one point in time, my daughter had heavy cramps with her cycle.
So does
And I
mine.
got her some evening primrose. I
Mhm.
believe that was the main thing, was those evening
And
primrose.
dandelion tea also is very good.
Okay. She took
Dandelion
those
tea is
pills
not.
and stop the dairy. Don't drink dairy before within that week
Oh yeah. Oh
leading
yeah.
up to it. And she was fine. Now I know she's gone back to drinking milk sporadically,
Mhm,
and she
mhm.
didn't continue to take the evening primrose oil. So I actually took those because hey, why not? It helps your skin and stuff. But that was a while ago. But I'm always preaching to them, leave the medicine alone, because when you
Yeah.
take medicine, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of problems that you didn't have before. Just treat the thing that's a problem and leave that other mess alone.
I definitely support anybody who feel like the conventional medicine is for them. Have at it.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah, if you
it
want
works for
to.
you. This is just me and my opinion and what I wish for my friends and
Family.
family.
Right.
Right. Because I don't want anyone thinking that I'm bashing the pharmaceutical company because I know they're great and I know they have some great medicine out there that help
But I
people.
disagree.
But 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 for
I
me, I'd
disagree.
rather have an alternative because I believe in nature did put just about everything it needs here to heal itself.
Well,
I mean,
I
I
just
know.
want to be flat out honest. I don't think that the pharmaceutical companies want to help and that they have great products. I think that the pharmaceutical companies want to make money. And I
Mhm,
think that their products are harmful for the most part to humans. And
mhm.
even when you listen to those commercials on TV, if you're taking something to deal with your sinuses, the potential problems are cancer, death, suicidal ideation. I mean, I will always say that to my children: listen to the commercial, listen to the side effects, and and they begin to realize, oh my God, the side effects are worse
Did you
than
hear about why
whatever you
there's
were
no?
trying to treat. So we stay away from that. I think, as with everything else, live and let live. If you want
Mhm,
to take pharmaceuticals, take them. I'm not going to bash anyone for taking them, but
right.
I don't think they're a good idea. I don't think they're trying to help us. I think they're trying to make money. And as a lawyer,
Well,
I
there
know,
is no there is no money in the cure. We all know that. The money's in the
and
treatment.
as a lawyer, I know for a fact that there have been times when the pharmaceutical companies have been clearly aware of the harm that a particular drug will cause, and they put it out anyway, and they
Oh
put
yeah.
a reserve aside to address the lawsuits and
Mhm.
so on that will surely come. So it's like killing people or harming them is just a cost of doing business. And I don't
Yeah,
want to deal with a industry like that. I would take a
yeah.
pharmaceutical, but it would be my absolute last resort. I would try
Mhm.
everything first.
I remember when I was very, very young, very thin, I had the Nora plant in my arm. And I was one of the first people in the United States to get it. Very first. I was actually
The
like,
birth control thing?
mhm. And
Oh,
I passed out. I had heavy bleeding. I mean, it was bad. And I remember going to the doctors and I said, you need to take this out. I literally am walking down the street and waking up and people are standing over me. And he thought it was funny. And I was so mad because
what's
years
funny
went
about
by and they
that?
had settled a humongous lawsuit without even telling me about it. And I always wanted look back on that. But they settled a huge lawsuit years later from people saying what exact thing I had, and I was one of the first. And he never, the office, the doctors never called me. He must have never reported it. What I said, because I'm quite sure I would have been one of the first people they contacted or whatever. But nope,
And
it
you
wasn't.
never saw anything on TV saying if you took
And
this.
back then they weren't putting lawsuits like they are now when they say, have you this? Because I had mine when I was 18, 19.
Okay.
So they weren't putting any of that on the news. This happened. I'm quite sure when I saw that there was a lawsuit and I looked it up, it was the case had already been settled. It was
Wow.
almost like close to 15 years, 17 years later.
I know a young lady who, she's a grown woman with children and a husband, but she's younger than me. And she apparently had that implant. I don't know that it was an implant, but she has something implanted as a birth control device, and it
Probably was
made her
Norplant.
huge. It made her very large, and she was like that for years. And it was because, as far as I'm aware, it was because of that implant that she got.
Well, the Depo-Vera shot has done that to a lot of the girls that I grew up
It
with.
might
And
be that.
my daughter snuck off and got it. And when she started blowing up, she was like,
My daughter.
Mia.
Oh, because
Yeah.
I'm like, Victoria is about that big. So
Yeah, Mia was literally 90 pounds until she got the Depo. Now she's is probably is same size as Victoria, which is like 120. But she
is
yeah,
Victoria taller than Mia?
oh yeah. She
But she
Victoria is
looks
5.
thinner. Mia doesn't look big. They both look, perfectly great. But Victoria looks thinner than Mia to me.
The youngest one.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So Victoria's always been like, when she was younger, she was way thinner. But when she got older, she had the baby fat, which was cute for me. I loved it. And then she couldn't stand it. So she went on this strict diet and she's gone all the way down to like 120. And Mia's picked up from 90, which is good because she was really thin.
Probably too thin if she was just 90 pounds.
Really, she was like 90 pounds soaking wet. And now she's like 120 and she loves it. She loves being thick. So she has no regrets with
Girl, their whole generation loves being thick, so much so that even when they're obese, they think they're thick. Now, your kids are nowhere near obese, but I see people on social media talking about they're thick. I'm like, no, dear, you are fat. And you need to lose some weight before you have some health
because
problems.
we had that conversation in private with my sister-in-law and I, and she's like, but I'm like, no, that's unhealthy. It's we cannot keep promoting just because you have a small waist, because that was something Oprah put out there one time. I remember she said the doctor told her, well, as long as your waist is not protruding and fat, you can be fat everywhere else and pretty much healthy. And I was just like, this is not
depends on how fat. I mean, there are limits, but I do know that Dr. Oz used to say that I think that your waist should be like half of your length. And anything more than that is harmful. And I certainly do know that fat around the waist is the most harmful fat.
Oh, yeah.
But these girls just are like, I'm sorry, they're just flat out fat, talking about I'm thick. No, you're not, boo. Sorry, no, you're not. But that's a whole nother story for other days.
And when we say fat, we're not trying to say it in like a demeaning way. We're saying it in like, we want you to be healthy because we know it comes with other health problems when you're
I'm saying it in an honest way. I'm saying it in an honest way. You're overweight, maybe obese. Some of them are obese. And like you said, it's not that I have a problem that you want to be overweight, is that your body is not designed to carry that much weight. It's going to affect your bones, your joints, your cardiovascular, everything. Your lungs, it's going to affect everything.
Yeah, and that's the long term of what I say when the word fat comes to mind for me. It's that because I grew up in a whole line of my grandparents. My grandmother's sisters were all big women, but they were solid. I mean, I'm talking about my grandmother calves looked like she benched 500 pounds. She was her legs were beautiful until the day she died at 70 something. And she was always had, the big chest and she was just a big woman.
Big hips, all that.
All of that. She was definitely a big, and her sisters were too, and they all carried it. and they all were plagued with health problems. And I'm not saying it was only because of
No,
weight.
but that contributes because my grandmother who raised me used to be large and she ended up having problems with her heart and
Mhm.
high blood pressure and all of that. And my
Diabetes.
grandmother who didn't raise me, my mother's mother, was like so skinny.
Mhm.
So skinny. So I always said to myself that I have one side of the family that's like that, my other
Mhm.
side like this, like my mother's brother is so skinny like my grandmother, but my other grandmother, those ones were
Mhm.
larger. And so I always told myself I have a choice and
Mhm.
I'm not going to be large like that. And
Yeah.
just to be clear, I think that there is a range that you don't have to be skinny. Everybody's not skinny. There's a range of healthiness, but there is a point where that weight becomes a health problem. And
Mhm.
I just think that our people would be well served to realize that.
Mhm.
'Cause some of them are
And
just
and that's why I dismiss when they, I mean, I give them the information, but I dismiss when doctors say, well, did your grandmother die of a heart attack, or did your grandfather die, or did your father, or did your mother, did they have because I believe that was the path they went because of things that they chose. If they chose to do drugs, smoke cigarettes, drink, eat unhealthy, not exercise,
that
doesn't mean that's going to happen to
that one.
me, you
Eat
know.
unhealthy. And a lot of times when people say diabetes runs in my family, no,
Yeah, I
dear,
don't know.
your eating
Yeah,
patterns run in your
running your
family.
family.
And if you stop eating those
Yeah.
things that your family members are eating, you will see
It
your
will
health
not come
turn
down to you.
around, turn around. Yeah, but
I just
but
don't
they don't
understand how
know.
that isn't common sense in the whole entire world.
Oh
That just because
no.
I've had so many people say, I have diabetes, but it run in my family. I had diabetes, so it's hereditary. What are you talking? There is no way you can tell me there was a gene that lied dormant as an infant and woke up at an age that, and you have it because your mom had it. That doesn't make
But
sense. Why
see,
weren't you? It's
it's
different when
so
you're born with it. I'm not talking about anything you're
oh
born
yeah,
with.
not that
Uh,
diabetes. Yeah,
yeah,
no. We're talking about type 2.
right.
Type 2 is the one that they acquire. Type 1 is the one they're born with,
Mhm.
right? Isn't
Or
that
high blood pressure. If you're not born with high blood pressure and then all of a sudden you turn 40 and the doctor tells you you have it, well, you might have it because you use the same pattern. Well, my grandmother had high blood and my mother, so I knew I was going to get it. How? How did you know that? You
but
know, whatever.
it's beautiful that you are so well aware of it. And obviously, I'm very well aware of it because the reality is most people don't understand the significance of the food they eat. And we
Mhm.
have not been taught in this country in particular how significant the food you eat is. I mean, that is
Mhm.
everything. It can change your life, it can reverse your diseases, it can do it, but most people don't really know that. And they don't understand that this food is critical.
I'm not saying how is it not common sense like someone's dumb. That's not what my point. My point was if you don't know, you just don't know.
We
You're not
never
taught.
knew. I mean, I
Right,
didn't know. I
right,
didn't
right.
know that. When I would hear people say sugar, because that's what Black people used to
Yeah,
call
yeah.
it,
For
sugar runs in
diabetes.
our family. It's
Yeah.
until I started getting into health and health coach stuff and all of that that I began to see, yeah,
Mhm.
it really makes a difference. And you see where people have changed their, I didn't know it.
And you
And
can
I know
reset
those
your
people in
body.
line at McDonald's probably, well, we know by now that fast
Mhm.
food is no good.
Mhm.
But what they don't know is that some of the other things they're eating at home are still unhealthy foods, you know.
And I guess I pay attention a lot, of how if whatever I put in my mouth and how it makes my body feel. So I know if I eat something that had a high content of sugar, how I feel afterwards. I know if I eat
Girl, I'm a
something with
total
high
sugar
content of sodium.
addict. I
Yeah.
love sugar. I don't care.
And see, I don't love
Love
sugar.
sugar.
And I'm a more of a salty person. So I don't like chicken with sugar based on it, like a
Oh, you know, I
teriyaki
don't
or
eat meat,
honey,
so I don't know.
honey something something. I don't like any of that. I'm more of a just a regular seasoned person. So if I do, I don't miss sugar if I don't have it. And I know that when I do take it, and the reason why I don't miss it is because I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Mm.
Period. I've
How
never
does it
liked the
make
way
you
sugar makes.
feel? How does sugar
Um,
make you feel?
sugar sugar feels like it slows down something in me. It causes depression in me. There's a
Oh,
instant spike of like hyperness, and then right after that, it's a crash for me.
fresh.
Just
Okay.
completely depressed, completely sad, moody, and then I also feel sluggish. So it's like, what's the point of that it has to be
If
a
you
drug
feel all
because
of that, yeah.
yeah, it's like that's useless to me. And why am I going to do that just because something tastes good? Like it just
And
doesn't
see,
make sense
I
to me.
don't feel that. I just love sugar. But I do remember one time I was in a meeting with some other attorneys.
Hmm.
We were eating up some muffins, donuts, whatever the
Hmm.
crap is that they brought us. Because
Hmm.
back then I wasn't as conscious about what I ate. And one of the attorney, and then I got sleepy after I could barely hold my eyes open. And one of the attorneys said, "You know, that's all that sugar you just ate."
Yep.
And so I did start to
Crash
pay
and burn.
attention to that, but I
Yep.
eat sugar every day. I will be honest. Every
Yep.
day I have something
That's the
sweet.
direct opposite of me. You can't tease me with sugar because I'm more of just a but I love healthy food. And I don't know if I mean anything healthy, I love it. I can change up in a New York minute and eat healthy and it makes my mind and my body follow. And I did something one time. I think we were talking about this before where I just was only eating healthy stuff and I could not it felt like I
Oh,
tapped
you
into
tell
a
me you
superpower.
lost weight and all kind of great stuff.
Yes, I tapped into a superpower and I was just like, why don't I keep doing this? And because I know I did it, I feel like I can always go back to it. But I would love to just start on that journey. But when you know, you have other people that you have to feed and
Girl, I'd
take
make
care
them.
of, and they're not on board with your healthiness. It's like I need to escape and just to
I
that.
cook them whatever they eat, but also I have always raised them to eat relatively healthy because I
Mhm,
was raised by my grandmother from down, she was from down south. And
mhm.
so all our meals were like a meat, a starch, and a vegetable. So when I was raising them, I that's what I did. That's what I knew. A meat, a starch, and a vegetable, and have this fruit
That's my
for
grandparents.
bed instead of candy or anything. So they're relatively healthy. But my daughter is a sugar junkie like me, and my son does not. If it's too sweet,
Mhm, that's
he would
me.
not. He don't want any candy. She and I will put that candy in that pantry and go home every day. We got to get some candy. I'll get some candy. Get some
Candy can
candy.
stay in
And
this
not
house
him. He won't
forever.
touch it.
Yep.
Mhm. So let me ask you this. Last time when we talked, you said
Mhm,
something that I said something that was amazing to you that my ex loved being black, and so
mhm,
do I.
mhm,
And you said something that was amazing to me, which was that when you were younger, you did not
mhm.
always love being black.
No,
And so
no,
we were
not at
going to
all.
talk about that
And I
now.
didn't even know about, white privilege. I didn't know about privilege. I didn't know anything about that. I just knew that I would see white people with, and I'm saying Caucasian when I say white people, and because
That's
they
what
could
it
have
means. What does it mean other than Caucasian?
because I know Jewish people do not like to be called white. They
Oh,
don't.
they're
They
white.
just want to be called
They're
Jewish.
white too.
Italians definitely don't like being called white.
They're white too. All the
So
white
it's like
people
when I
came
say
from,
that, I mean as
they're all
far
white.
as the hue of the skin that you would pass for, or would
Italians are white. They come from Europe, and so do Sicilians. They're all white people,
and
Europeans. Now, Jewish is really more of a religion
mhm.
than
Right.
a
Well, that's
race.
what they're saying now. They're saying,
Yeah.
but you can't tell a Jewish person that.
Well, I
A
would
Jewish
call them
person, I
white,
swear
and
for
we're
God
gonna
that
get it.
Jewish is its own race and its own. It might be a religion, but it's its own race too. So
They
yeah, when
say
I
that.
say
They do say that.
right, so I'm trying to be respectful when I speak
I
about.
am too, but I'm not going to play. They're all white. I'm not going to
Well,
pretend they're not.
that's the subject topic is what I'm trying to
I'm
get at.
sorry. I just
Okay.
veered off.
No, no, no,
I'm just.
no, no, no. It's just I want to I just don't want anyone ever to listen and say well, what does that mean? I'm pale skin, straight hair, but doesn't mean that's what. So when I say white, I'm talking about the Caucasian race. I grew up
Okay.
around them
Mhm.
and I saw them have things that I wanted for my family, and I didn't know why my family didn't have it.
But
And
this is your family with your grandfather that Ford bought the house and stuff for?
yeah, yeah, and my
So
mom and my dad. My dad and mom, they probably could have had wealth or riches, but they just was uneducated to get to that point because
so
it was
what kinds of things did you see white people have that you would have wanted for your family?
things that I gave my children. Like at a certain age, they were able to acquire stuff. Like they went on vacations. We never went on vacations. They they were, their housing and they were always, acquiring, real estate or cars and education. They could, play sports and they could, just travel with the sports or whatever. It was
But you
always,
could see a distinct difference between
oh,
how they lived and how you lived.
oh yeah, 110%. And I couldn't articulate that to my family and my mother and father and say, how come we can't have what they have? And they would, and if when I did try to articulate it, it would come across as they're white, almost like they had the right to have that. I didn't know what that means. You know, oh, that's white. That's white people stuff. Yeah, the white people can have. And they never articulated
But they
why.
also were a different generation. Just even
Yeah.
that one
I would never say
generation,
that to my children. I
but
would
that
never.
one generation could have made
Mhm.
them feel that white people have and do stuff that black people don't, because they're just a little bit removed from the slavery
Right.
generation.
Well, my grandmother, father, who lived very long, I mean, well into his 90s, was still, I mean, he had his own land, he had his own house, he was a sharecropper, he was a farmer, he was everything. And he hadn't, he acquired wealth for that, you know, for his era. And, but he still was considered poor for anybody else. I mean, he had land, and my family still only, that's the only land we still do own is and still do have in our family. But other than that, all the rest of them have lost their land, you know, have been out, you know,
Have
whatever the
been
government
tricked out of their
kicked
land
out of it,
and
most
all
of it
kind
tricked
of
out of
stuff
it.
that this country
Oh
does.
yeah, my grandparents, the house that they had downtown Annapolis, they gave them, I think, like 90,000 for it, and it's worth $1 million right now. It's literally
We
waterfront.
already know there wasn't enough money. So they eminent domain them? Did they make them move to do something, or your grandparents just sold the house?
No, they came in. The city came in and said that if you don't fix up this house and you don't get it up to city code, we either have to take it from you or we'll buy it from you for $90,000. Oh, well, that sounds like a lot of money from these
Well, that
people who
does
were
sound
in
like
their
a lot
age
of
and
money.
years, and then they were able to buy a house that was like 50,000. You
Yeah.
know, so they thought they had a little money in the bank put away, and they
That's
lived
not
off
the
of it.
worst thing in the world. Prices rise. I mean, it certainly wasn't worth a million back then, but
No,
no
but it was worth
doubt
five
it was
hundred
worth
thousand back then.
well more than
It was worth
90,000.
500,000 because it was
Yeah,
waterfront property downtown Annapolis.
yeah.
And well, it's considered waterfront now, but it was water view is what they called it back then. So they didn't have to pray. But you definitely, when it was on the market a couple of weeks ago, it was on the market for waterfront property. Oh, yeah, $1 million. So,
You know, the government, I don't care what anybody says. I have to be honest. I'm just going to be clear. I am not
mhm,
going to be politically correct in this podcast.
mhm,
I'm going to say what I really think.
mhm.
The government has never given Black people a fair deal. If
Oh no, oh
any
we know
turn they
that.
can shaft you, they
Oh
will
yeah,
shaft you. So
yeah,
if they gave
absolutely.
them 90, you say it was worth 500,
Mhm,
I agree with you, because
mhm.
that's what they do.
Oh
And
yeah,
they count
yeah,
on
yeah.
our ignorance. They count on
Mhm.
the fact that, well, it's changed now, but back then they counted on the fact that we simply didn't know any
We
better.
didn't know, and
We
they
didn't
knew
know.
that. They knew desperation and lack of knowledge plays a big part. And it's sad because you know, like I said, the way I grew up, I didn't hate on anybody who had more than us. I embraced everything, and they worked for everything that they had. I'd never seen anybody do anything illegal to acquire their wealth or anything. So, but I just couldn't understand why my family didn't seem to want to thrive. Not my grandparents. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about my parents and the people around my parents' siblings or whatever. Why didn't it look like they wanted what the rest of the world appeared to have to me?
But why did that make you not love being Black
Because
instead of just saying, I
I
don't want to
felt like
have lack of ambition like these people?
I felt like that black people, the black people that I knew and I was growing up around, that they didn't see it. You know, they didn't see what I saw, and I wanted to know why no one else saw it. Eventually, all of us eventually came to the same crossroad. A lot of the black people I grew up with eventually saw what I saw, and and wanted better for themselves and their children. And I love that. I love looking on Facebook and seeing all the great things my high school, people I went to high school with and their kids are doing. I love it. And some of them made it, some of them slipped through the cracks, but for the most part, we all knew what we saw and we all wanted better. And I felt like when I was younger that was a black issue. I felt like being black kept the knowledge of
Like being Black made people less motivated to go out there and get stuff?
no, just the knowledge wasn't acquired. I felt like if I was any other race, I and my friends and family would have been able to acquire that knowledge. I felt like there was a book of knowledge, not, I'm hypothetically speaking.
Mhm.
There was a book of knowledge hidden somewhere on how
Oh,
to make
that
it a
only
black.
the white people could get access to?
Yeah. And I'm not actually saying an actual book. I'm talking about
No, 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 I
in
know
a
what you're saying.
metaphoric way. Yeah, metaphorically, I'm saying there was a knowledge, the wisdom and understanding was out there, but no one was telling us that you don't have to die to get to heaven. You can have heaven here on earth.
So
You know
did
it
you
now.
feel like you wanted to be white, or you just felt like, "I wish I wasn't black,"
I
or
wish I wasn't black. I never wished I was any other race. I
Mhm,
never wished I was Hispanic, Indian, Asian, white. I never wished that, ever wished that.
mhm,
My hair has always been black. I've always wore black. I love black.
mhm.
But I never wanted to be, when I was younger, black skinned it because, or black skinned, because I felt like that was my, you can see me and you're not going to tell me what I need to know because of the skin. Like I'm not,
So
how do I,
you actually realize you don't really think like that very much now, but you actually realized at a very young age that there was some kind of system or
oh,
something that was holding information back from you to
mhm.
your detriment and passing it on to all the other
Let
races.
me tell you, we have it's a club and it's downtown Annapolis and it's called the Yacht Club. Black
Mhm,
people were only allowed to work there. They were never allowed to socialize there. I was privileged to go in there. My friends who were members of the yacht club when I was in the sixth grade had a bar mitzvah, and I was privileged as the only black person to go there. And I remember it was a big deal in my entire family that I was in that yacht club. It was like, you went, yeah, I heard you went to the yacht club, and me as a sixth grader, probably was younger than that, but maybe around that age. But I was like, what's the big deal? Like, it was just a restaurant. I couldn't, what was the, no one ever sat there and told me until I was older. It was like, well, you went to the yacht club when you was younger, even though everybody else couldn't even get in there. You couldn't even be, I never remember them not serving me. I remember me not liking my hair because it was hot in there and, flat press and comb don't work when it get hot. So I remember that was the worst thing that happened to me. You couldn't tell me, well, did they treat you right? They could
You
have
don't
probably
remember
been
any of that.
all I remember was that press and curl was about to go up any moment. That's all
Mhm,
I remember. I like my dress I had on, I like the clothes I had on, but I just hated my hair, and that was the worst part of that experience for me.
mhm.
So for me to know that that was a privilege, that I was invited into a privileged world because I was black, I didn't know that. But as I got older and I started hearing that more, like she gets to go there, she gets to do that, and they do, and I didn't know what that mean, and I felt like, okay, now I need to start paying attention. So if I walked into a room, people didn't stop talking when I came in that room. They didn't stop and say, "Shh, shh, shh." But as I got older, people did. And that's when I knew, oh, okay, then I refer back to when I was younger, and I pick up on things and I see things. Like when my first child was going off to college, I mean, I needed to know how to how to do this. I had no clue. Nobody before me went to college. Nobody, I went to Anne Arundel Community College, but I'm talking about a university. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. So I started going to all these email meetings that I had signed up for. Well, I was the only black person there once again in all these meetings, and they were using these terminologies and words, and they would go, the instructors, they would be like, well, I'm not at liberty to speak about that right now. We can talk afterwards. And I'd be like, okay, so what happened afterwards? I need to know what y'all
All
talking
the
about.
secret
So
stuff. Yeah, I need to know the inside
yeah.
scoop. That's why I'm here.
So then I started having to play the game. I'm like, okay, I need you to sit in with me for this, find out what they talking about, and bring me this information back because they ain't letting me know it. And then when I found out I had to do that, it was more so. I wish when I was younger, that now I'm able to articulate. I wish when I was younger, I could have morphed into something else to get the
Just
knowledge,
to be able
to
to
bring
get
it
the
back.
knowledge.
Because then
And
I was able
and
to do it. You know what I mean? But when I was younger, I didn't know how to do that because they spoke freely around me. No one ever, was like, okay, the black girl's coming in the room.
well, you're just a
Because I
kid.
wasn't that
You
black girl. I was
you were just a kid. You
I was just
didn't
a kid.
know.
I didn't know.
And what you're saying about those meetings and stuff, is a prime example of what I am always saying, particularly on my YouTube channel,
Mhm.
that there is an entire system of white supremacy.
Mhm.
And remember, we had that conversation about white women helping us to fix
Mhm.
this and that. They all benefit from it. I'm not saying they don't have a good heart and they don't want things to be better for us, but I'm saying that they all benefit from that. And they're not going to dismantle it because that would take away their privilege. And that's the only thing they have over us. Because trust and believe, if you're going up against us toe to toe, everything's equal, you know who's winning because we're still winning and it's all against us. So,
Mhm.
whole
Mhm.
different thing. But that is very interesting and very
Yeah.
insightful on your
So it
part.
wasn't that I wanted to be any other race. I just was so upset that I felt like as a black person, which I didn't even know I was black, I just knew whatever the thing I had
Was different.
was different and I couldn't get what I wanted because of it. I could not
But
obtain
you didn't ascribe it to you did ascribe it to your skin color
now as
now,
I'm older.
not then,
But that back then I didn't know what it was. I just knew I didn't want to be what I was.
because
I
they
wanted
were
to be
able to do.
what they were. I wanted to be whatever they were and whatever they had. I wanted to know how they got it. I wanted to know how right out of high school, all of them went to college. I wanted to know how right after middle school, because we could drive back then, everybody had a car. I mean, and 15 years old, 16 years, everybody had a car. Everyone was driving. Like, how is it that you all are able
Like
to?
you're just excluded out of this whole great system.
Yeah. And so that's why I guess my kids are always saying I'm so hard on them because they missed a couple steps. Because of me, they missed a couple steps. They never had to ever wonder why couldn't they compete with the best of them, which were whoever the best is. They never had to wonder that. They competed with the best of them.
Oh, because you made sure that they had whatever all those other people had.
Yes, yes. I
Gotcha.
made sure that my children skipped over any struggle. They have no struggle stories to tell. I can tell the stories. I'm quite sure you could probably tell the stories, and our grandparents and great grandparents
My
could tell the
children have
struggle
some
stories.
struggle stories. Sometimes it's a story that I didn't know about. Like I didn't know that once my son, I didn't know that the first year when he didn't work and we were giving him an allowance, that wasn't really enough. And he
That's not
didn't
a
tell me
struggle
that.
story. When you have
That
no
is a
allowance.
struggle story
No,
to
but when
be
you have no allowance,
but
and
that
I'm
is
talking
a
about you didn't
struggle.
ate ramen noodles and candy bars for about a month.
I know, but
He
that's a
don't know that
struggle
story.
story. That's a struggle story to
Right.
not have had enough spending money and to not have told me, because if he had clearly explained to me, this amount only allows me to do this or that, I would have given him more. But that hurt my
See?
feelings, actually.
But
That
do you hear
actually hurt
that?
my
You would have
feelings.
given him more. So there is no that still isn't a
But he
struggle
didn't
story.
tell me, so he did struggle, and he did not have enough money, and that really hurt me. I was like, "Don't do that again." If you tell me and I say I can't help because I don't have it, that's one thing, but don't sit there and not have and don't say
Mhm.
I'm struggling because that's
But
not
think
what
about
that
it.
is.
You know that doesn't mean struggle because if he really was struggling, brotherhood would have came to you and said,
Yeah,
"Mama, look, the dog is barking over here. I'm gonna need you to come through, and you can't. Can you find out who can? Because I'm out of resources. That's what I'm telling you. You
maybe,
ain't really struggling. Because when
maybe.
you struggling, you know about it. You know about it. You don't even miss the signs. Because
I
you as
don't
a
know.
mom, you can't even beat yourself up and say, "How did I not know it?" or "How did I not see it?" Because as a mom, you know he wasn't struggling. You know if he really was
He
struggling.
was struggling, but I didn't know it, and that really
See,
bothered
that's what I'm saying. You would have known because you would have been like, "Wait a minute,
me.
my
He didn't
son
tell me. I
is
just
one
didn't know.
clown
I didn't.
and he didn't wore the same clothes and
He's
he
not struggling
working."
for lack of clothing and shoes.
No, what I'm saying is
He
that's
didn't
what's
have
going
enough
to happen.
spending money. He needed more spending money in order to really have more enjoyment during that phase. And I wasn't aware of that because the amount that I arranged for him to have, I thought was enough. But listening back to what he was saying, it just wasn't enough. And he should have said, Mom, I need more.
But when you calculated the enoughness, did you say, "Well, you ain't really missed too much because you still was doing this. I saw you doing that. I
Well,
heard you
yeah, and
doing."
I would pay for homecoming
Mhm,
package or this or that, but still, I'm just telling you, looking back, if I had it over,
mhm.
I would have given him more. So
But
he has a little bit of he has somewhat of a struggle story. I don't know if my daughter has one, but like I told you, I have not given them everything to compete with the best. I have given them everything to have a good life, but
Mhm.
they are well
That's
aware
competing
that
with the
there's
best.
some other people
That's
who have
competing with the best.
way more than us, and I don't try to pretend that they don't.
Trust me, that's competing with the best. If you're giving them everything they need to survive and everything that you can do in your powers, that's competing with the best. Because I didn't have that for
I
sure.
have that for
And
sure.
I know the generation before me didn't have it. I know they didn't. We all talk about it to this day. We didn't have it, you know?
Mhm.
When my two girlfriends went off, one went to FAMU, one went to Howard. They said they hadn't even heard stories until they went there because they were raised, and I'm talking about my sisters, my black sisters. They were like, you didn't eat when you were where was your mom when you was home? Like, oh, she was out working two
I know
jobs.
we don't have none of those kind of struggle stories. I don't have any of. We ate. We ate. So listen, let me ask you. So I will say we were
Mhm,
starting a new thing where we're having
mhm,
a timer so that we can try to keep it right
mhm.
around an hour. And
Okay.
we're down to like our last 5 minutes. And I
Okay.
know you wanted to talk about this Daunte Wright situation. So
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that 5 minutes is enough, but let's just at least start on it so that we can talk something
Well,
about it.
this is of course I'm gonna try to say this without shedding a tear, but it's gonna be very hard because I just heard the mother speaking at her press conference, and her son's 20. We both have 20-year-olds. You know, we know the 20-year-olds. We, you know, you can't say, well, he had a kid, so he was a man. We know
He's a
you put
kid. He's a 20-year-old kid.
he's a 20-year-old kid, and I don't care if just because he's black does not make him a man. Them
And
20
if
year
he were
olds
white, they would be calling him a kid. So
Yes, they
cut it
would.
out.
They would, if any race, any other race other than black, they would be still
Mhm.
calling him a kid. I don't mean literally any other race. And that's what hurts me. Even call him a young man if you want, but please don't call him a man because he's not a man at all. And he has I think a 2 year old, and
That's
um
okay. You had a kid at 18. So what? He's still
he
a kid himself. He
that,
was a kid with a
he was
kid.
still a baby. You know, he was a baby
I
having a
think you could
baby,
call
and
him a young man, but he was still a
yeah,
kid who happened to have a baby.
that's all I see. I see his innocence. I see his ignorance. I see it all, that everything that a kid is supposed to have at that age. I see it at 20. They
They
don't have it
said that
figured
the
out at
warrant,
all.
they said that the warrant that was at issue was because they sent some kind of legal process to the
Yeah,
wrong
the Zoom meeting
address.
was sent to the wrong address,
So
Zoom
he
address.
didn't even know. And the other thing, and you know, I don't watch these things, but I
Mhm,
kind of listened a little bit to what were the circumstances. What
mhm,
really got me was when they were saying that his mother was actually on the phone with him during the traffic stop, and he said they want the insurance. And
mhm.
she said, well, when the police come back, put them on the phone and I'll give it to them. That reminded me of all of me and my peers who are involved in our kids' lives like that. We know the insurance. Yeah, we
Yeah,
in a heartbeat, I'll say, yeah,
yeah.
we're with such and such. And
That's
I'm like, man, this is like middle class, regular kids that we all
yes,
know that you're
yes.
just now shooting that. I am so done with
But
it.
the
I'm
DMV
so
even
done.
shouted loud. The DMV was pissed because they're like, we told you we were backlogged because of COVID. Nobody tags should be getting pulled over for expired registration or tags right now.
Oh, you mean
We can't
Department
handle
of Motor Vehicle? Because you know they called the DMV
it. Mhm.
the
Oh
Maryland.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you
yeah,
threw me
yeah.
off for
Department
a
of Motor
minute.
Vehicles. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the Department of Motor Vehicles was pissed. They were like, "We're gonna just go on and let y'all know right now. We've told them not to pull people over, don't ticket them because we can't even handle on top of all that we have to do. We can't even handle you ticketing, suspending license, or citing somebody to make sure they have this because it's not going to happen. You can give them a ticket all you want and say, go get your tags and your, straight, or go get your registration straight. We can't do it right now. We're backlogged. And so when I heard that, that even more frustrated me that you put this baby, because like I said, we have that
We
baby.
got kids
And
around that age, yeah.
yeah,
And we know that
we
they are
know that they
kids. They
don't
are
know
not
how to
grown people.
articulate, hey, hey, I don't know, I know you're pulling me over for the tags, but don't you realize the DMV is backed up right now? Like the motor vehicles are backed up. Like my mom, you wouldn't even get on the phone to let anyone even explain, just me. Oh, he's got a warrant. I got one. Easy pickings. I'm gonna go ahead and the whole thing of
And what about this fake thing about, oh, I mean, taser, nobody says taser, taser. Your taser's not your gun. It's totally
Oh, well, they
different.
saw her take the safety clip off, so that's why she retired today. And which I wish she had gotten fired. I wish they never let her because
I
that
don't
means she
care if
really
she
did.
retired,
Well,
fired,
they're
she needs
scooping
some
up.
criminal
They're
charges
bringing up charges because they saw you're taking your safety off your taser.
off your
It's bright
taser.
yellow.
Mm,
Yeah, her taser's bright yellow. You
mm.
clearly have your gun out in front of you. You said several times that was you needed to get one under your belt. You wanted to kill somebody. You knew he was an easy target. You shot him in his chest. You knew exactly what you were doing. No one. And I hear so many people of the Caucasian race say, it was an accident, and you can totally
Bullshit.
hear. But
I don't buy it.
when you're black, we don't see the accident. And there is no, if it was,
There's
there
no
was no,
accident with the white kids. There's no accident with these white kids who are mass murderers. Somehow
well,
you're able to know the difference between a taser and a gun. You're able to bring them in, and there are no accidents and no deaths. So I just am really upset about
well,
this.
once you hear the mother cry and you hear how sad and broken she is, and her home is missing a soul, a part of her life, a part of her bloodline is gone now, too early. And our son,
For
her
no
son,
reason. For
for
no
no reason, but
reason.
to treat him like a piece of meat. You give more respect to an animal in the streets, a stray cat, stray dog, than you did to this beautiful soul who just wanted to get away because he's afraid. You
And
know
you
that
know
when
why he's afraid. It's
and you
not
know
even
why he's
like you
afraid.
don't even know why he's
So
afraid.
why would you need to? There was a big, huge black guy trying to detain him at the time. The black guy could have easily slammed him to the ground if he wanted to. He didn't. He was even taking it easy on him because he probably was like, look, we got all his information. If he wants to hurry up and run home or do whatever he wants to do, we're gonna eventually get him anyway. You come along with your racist self and take this beautiful life, and it's like, where does it end? Because we had this conversation, you and I, because we have sons, we have these conversations. Why are we still having these conversations? Why are we still saying to ourselves, it's nothing you can do now? We've had the conversations with our kids to comply, to not be afraid, to not run, to not, it
But
doesn't
you're
matter.
gonna
We
be
know it doesn't
afraid.
matter.
You're right in the middle of the trial regarding the murder of George Floyd. You're gonna be afraid. You know what policemen do and police women do to Black males. It's open season and you're gonna be afraid. And that's the bottom line.
And that's the bottom line. So that's why I said is we have the conversation. We tell them keep your hands on the stern wheel. And I know you're saying the two that are standing out, but there was a military man, and he was a beautiful
And I
brother,
thought we
and he
love
did
the
everything.
military and we appreciate your service and all that. And then you did the
And
same
don't kneel,
thing
and
to
don't
him.
kneel. Don't forget, don't kneel on our military.
Right, because
Don't
the
kneel. Don't take a
military
knee.
is the be all and the end all in America. And you're pepper spraying him and abuse. I'm so done.
Pepper spraying him. You put his face down in dirty gasoline and oil, and put his he got treated probably worse than he did overseas fighting for his country in his own country.
But that's not
So
a new thing. All the Vietnam veterans and stuff, that's what they said. We go
oh,
over
yeah.
there and fight for them. We come back, they treat us like we're not even human. I'm
Well,
sick of
so
Americans.
at this
I'm sick
point, like
of
I
this
said,
stuff.
once you see the three segments that just took place, you see the trial, you see the military, and you see Daunte, the military the lieutenant. I should not be called the lieutenant.
Lieutenant, the
He's the
lieutenant,
lieutenant,
yes,
and Daunte,
right.
20-year-old Daunte. When you see what those men went through, and you fight every day for your black man to stay alive and come home alive, and your black child, people don't know it's taking a toll. Like, it's taking a toll,
It
and
already took
somebody.
one before those three because you guys watched murder after murder after murder, shooting people in the back, somebody running through the field, shooting them. They shot so many, somebody at the store, you shoot them, somebody selling cigarettes, you choke them out. You guys have seen it. I don't watch it, but you have
And
seen
there was a
tons
woman
of
who was just shot and killed the same exact way, an older woman who just wanted the police to leave her alone because she walked out of the store. He didn't know he was being filmed, and he shot and killed her. And that's another one that hasn't been
it.
really
When was
making
that?
headlines. I have to send that to you. I was gonna, like I said, I always pick and choose what I want to send out because it's so
You don't want to perpetuate
energy
it.
snatching. Yeah, it's
But
so
you
energy
know, you
snatching.
guys, all Black Americans were, and really, well, let me say this: all Black Americans were already traumatized, and this is like just the. I don't want to call it the straw that broke the camel's back, but it is just layer on top of layer.
Yeah.
And outside of this country, people are seeing what's going on in the UK. I have friends in the UK and other places who are saying, what the hell is going on in America? Why is it okay? And what I want to say too, and I know this is not politically correct, what are we going to do about it?
That's
Because
what I
Black
keep
men are
saying.
quick to shoot up another brother and shoot up a neighborhood and a sister, but you are letting people kill us without any consequence. You know the judicial system is not going to do anything, and we're not doing anything. We need to do something different. And it better not be another march or protest either, because that clearly isn't working.
I stopped even believing that we are the ones that shooting up our neighborhood because I haven't seen no arrest at all. So I'm wondering, are you dressing up? Are you dyeing your skin? Are you putting on costumes and pretending you're
Have
black
you
people doing
seen
it?
it where they put the black mask on? And
Yeah,
plus, that's what a lot of people are saying about Chicago, that all
yeah.
that stuff is not happening by
No,
Black people.
I fail to believe that. I fail to believe there's that many of us anymore that's willing to do that. I just don't believe it anymore. And I feel like at this point, the cat is out of the bag. You know, everybody knows now that, you know, it's not blacks killing blacks anymore. It's not because there is no arrest being made at all. You're not publicizing it. You're not finding out who just shot up a whole block and killed several people. I
And
mean,
what we also know
with
is
all
that
the cameras and the FBI who's able to just go beam up to
those
the
satellite,
satellite and beam down to earth and say, okay, well, this cell phone, this car was alive and on at this time right here. Like, what?
and what we also are clear on is that the police departments across the country have been infiltrated by the KKK and have been so
Oh,
for
yeah.
quite some time.
Mhm,
The police system is broken when it comes to Black people.
mhm,
The judicial system is broken when it comes to meting out consequences
mhm.
for doing things to Black people. And what we need to figure out is what we as Black people are going to do.
Well, that's what the minister had been saying, but of course they're trying to drag his name in the
You
mud.
talking about Farrakhan?
Minister Farrakhan, he's been saying that for years. What are we going to do? Like, enough is enough. Like, he's I've never heard him say, let's go out and hurt anybody. I've only heard him say, and maybe my ears ring deaf to what I want to hear, but I've only ever heard him say, well, what are we going to do about it? You know, what are you going to start building your own schools? Are you going to start shopping at your own grocery stores? Because I know for a fact that I see six, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grocery stores in Annapolis that are owned by the Hispanics. I've never seen
Get
one
it
black
in.
grocery store, and we've been here forever.
Yeah,
So how are you
everybody
getting
else
the
gets it
loans?
too.
How are you getting the rent? How are you getting the space? How is all of this happening for you as if we never wanted that or we didn't need it or we weren't going to do it? I don't think we ever were
I
afforded the
think we need
opportunity.
to talk about this some more next time.
Mhm.
And I just want to point out too, while we're on this, that Farrakhan has been excluded from all social media.
Mhm.
Riza Islam, a young Muslim who is very conscious, has been excluded from YouTube and social media. Young Pharaoh, who also goes by Pharaoh Otten, who's an even younger guy who's really brilliant about all things Black, has now been excluded. They are wiping out people's YouTube channels, people with hundreds of thousands of followers. We have a problem and we need to figure out what we're going to do about it. And the time for sleeping or just it's not going to be okay. And it's not going to be fixed until we fix it. But I don't know if we talk about that next time, but I guess we could follow back up on the
Mhm.
trauma of the multiple killings.
Well, that's what I
And
was saying. You know, that's what the minister was saying. That, you know, he's known the trauma his whole life, and what are we going to do to fix the trauma? Like, what are we going to? Are we going to become more police officers? I mean, get more into law enforcement, become more judges, lawyers, you know, whatever. What are we going to do? We can't just keep sitting around saying we got to go. We're going to give, what is it called, the my heart and tears and prayers or to the family. Like, we
no,
can't keep
I ain't
doing
got time for that. And all that religious God's gonna where was all this I'm done. I'm
that.
done for today because I don't even want to go off on a tangent, but I do think it would be useful for us to talk about, you know, if we have ideas, because there's no really easy answer, but
No,
what
not at
kinds
all.
of things can we do? And I mean, there are easy fixes for the government and the system, but it's clear that they're not going to implement them. So, what will
Mhm.
we do to try to address this? Anything else you really want to hit before we move
No,
on?
no, that the whole
Our
Daunte
episode?
Wright situation has just had me under the weather for a couple of
It was
days.
hard. It
Just
was a
so
hard.
hard for me to see such beautiful lives snatched when you don't, it hasn't even reached its full potential. I get so upset and so,
And this was a child on the phone with his mother. This is not some, you know, drug dealing, gun toting. This is just, I just don't even know what to say to these people. And I don't know what to say. I don't have anything else to say. I just thank everybody for joining us. And I hope that those of us who are affected by this can find some peace and find some comfort and
mhm,
find some solutions, because I think
absolutely,
we're all looking for solutions now.
absolutely.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you
Thank
next time.
you.